People, we are Tottenham TV here, back again with another Tottenham update for you guys, and some interesting news coming out over the last 24 hours in regards to transfer news and the management situation. Joining me today to discuss all the topics is the brilliant Brian Daigle is in the building. How are we doing, Brian?
I am doing very well, Simeon. I hope you are, and all the people watching are as well. Another day in paradise at Tottenham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wasted most of our lives for another day in paradise. Exactly, Brian. Yeah, not great being a Tottenham fan at the moment. How are you holding up with the current situation?
Listen, it is what it is. Unfortunately, nothing's going to change soon, whether people want it or not. It's soul destroying at the moment, really, isn't it? It's just watching us. It's not fun. It's not fun once again. But hey, January is here. We're going to spend hundreds of millions bringing everything.
It's silly season, Brian. It's silly season. Try to get excited.
They're all coming. All the top names, they're coming. We're going to sign. We're going to rocket up the league and win all 3 cups.
We say nothing's going to change, Brian, and that is our first story. And this comes from David Ornstein talking on NBC. He says that Ange Postecoglou's job is 100% safe. They are backing him to lead the project forward, and there is no uncertainty about his future, David Ornstein is saying. He also said that Tottenham want to do more business in January, would like to strengthen their defence and attack, less so in their midfield. Some loans could be on the agenda. There's also the possibility of some permanent deals like Kinsky if they can bring in any forward. So look, clearly they're looking to add reinforcements to give Ange what he needs in the upcoming games to try and get results. But the main story there, Ange, given that we're 1 win in 8 with no home wins in 2 months, we're currently sitting in 12th, his job is 100% safe, Brian Daigle. I, for one, I think it's the best course of action, as I've always maintained. But how do you feel about that?
Is this the vote of confidence? Is this literally they are 100%? I just don't know with this club anymore. If the club have come out and said this, there is nothing that can be done. If they are saying after this run of form and the injuries and everything going on that they are 100% behind him, the only way I could see any logic behind it, personally, is that he gets everything he needs in the transfer window. And I do mean everything. Like you said, defence definitely needs work on. Forward line, I can agree with what they're saying, that the defence and forward line are the ones that need strengthening the most. The club coming out and saying this, so that they're 100% behind him and everything. It's great to hear they're behind the manager. Let's just hope the results can change to back this up, because if the results continue the way they are, I don't see how they can be 100% safe. I just don't.
Does it not, in a way, and may not feel like it now, but it's not in a way refreshing that we're, instead of always going in that 18-month cycle that we've done for so many years and for so long, that we're actually looking to push through this difficult period, of understanding the context and willing to give him time to turn it around and actually try to build something that we've started instead of just chucking it away after 18 months like we usually do?
I, for one, and as you know, Simeon, and I've defended Ange stoutly, but if that's even the right word, for a long time. But when you look at these results, if this one win in 8 becomes 1 win in 12 in the league, and people say, yeah, we've got to ride out this storm, it's like, okay, so how many games is this storm? Is it 13? Is it 15? Is it the remaining? It's a results-based business. I want to see a manager given time. I really, really do. But when a manager is going for a rough patch, you've got to say, is this just a rough patch, or is this a downward spiral that shows no signs of improving? And currently, this looks like a downward spiral more than a rough patch.
But is it not fair to say, I'm not getting battered every week, are we? We're not losing 3-4-0 every week, and it's like the games are no contest. So each game is very, very tight. Each game has fine margins. And when we were winning early in the season, we were winning by big margins as well. I know we lost some stupid games as well, but also those losses were still quite tight games, and we were losing by the odd goal. And, you could see where that could turn around. And now we have this injury crisis, and we have this problem where we've got no fit defenders. We're currently on our third choice keeper as of on Sunday. So can you not see where we have a drop off at the moment? But if that starts to turn around, the results can turn as well, because there's still very, very tight margins.
Yes, I can see where you're coming from, and to some extent, I kind of agree with you. But again, it's all coulda, woulda, should have, or let's wait and see if. Listen, like you said, a lot of our results that we won and played well were by big goal margins, weren't they? They're like your 3-0s, your 4-0s, your 5-0s. But when it comes to these tight games, is where I would sacrifice the 4-0 win at City for a 2-0 win and wish we'd got a couple of goals elsewhere. Again, that's all coulda, woulda, shoulda. The players will be back soon, we'll see. But the way we keep playing, we keep getting these injuries. There's no getting away from that. It's how long can these players stay fit playing this way? I think that what Ange might need to do when all these players are fit is obviously use them better rotation-wise. If Reguilon is here, all right, he may not be the best left back and we may want him out, but he's there as a left back. Use him, and you can say the same with the right back. You can say the same with the centre backs, and there are so many players that could be rotated. I think to get anything out of what he wants to do and the way he plays, rotation is going to become key to keeping these players fit.
Yeah, I agree with that. He probably should rotate better. I think some of them, you know, have just been unlucky. You know, Vicario's one was unlucky. I think when Romero came back and got injured, I thought that was unlucky. I think obviously Bentancur's banned for 7 games. There's nothing you can do about that. So there have been situations where out of his control, but there's also been, in my opinion, especially the re-injuries to Van der Ven, to Udogie, to who else got re-injured? Odegaard, Richarlison. It can't be a coincidence these players keep getting re-injured. I'm not saying it's all down to him. I'm not even necessarily saying it's his playing methods, but I do think there's something. There's not a coincidence, and there's something we're doing wrong, and there's something that's happening within the club, whether it be the medical department or maybe it is with Ange himself. But I think I don't see any other manager being blamed as much as Ange for injuries, and maybe other managers aren't as to blame as Ange with injuries, but we're not the only team in world football or the league to play with a high intensity system and to play with a high line and to ask their players to do a lot of running and to play with intensity. And we're not the only club to do that. Yeah, I'm only seeing Ange blamed for injuries. When other clubs get injuries, I don't see their managers get blamed for it. So I think there is a bit of a double standard when it comes to these injuries, where Ange gets blamed for all the injuries and other managers don't. But I concede as well that these re-injuries are not a coincidence, and we do have to sort that out. And Ange has to be culpable for that in terms of how he's dealing with the medical staff and how their communication and maybe their decision making together. There's a big problem with that. Maybe the medical staff need to put their foot down more and say, look, you cannot use this player till he's 100%, and or they're making wrong calls, and maybe the medical staff are saying he's 100%, he can play, where actually he could do with another week's rest. I don't know, but there have been situations, Ange has publicly said that he could play a certain player, and he's decided to give him another week's rest because he doesn't want to risk them. He's also done that as well. So I think Ange has shown that in certain situations he has erred on the side of caution, but I agree there's no coincidence with this with these re-injuries, and that's something that does need to be fixed.
It does. Listen, when it comes to the hamstring issues, we've seen all the publications from the same thing happened at Celtic, and it just continued to happen. So the hamstring issues seems to be a thing that's following him.
But at Celtic, it was better in his second season. It wasn't as bad in his second season.
Well, that was his second season there. Obviously, it's not been the case here. But I will say as well, a massive amount of this has to be put on the Spurs medical team, which it just hasn't been a problem for Ange Postecoglou. It's been a problem for previous managers. We saw Jose going on about it in the documentary. We have had a constant problem with our medical team. You've spoken about every Spurs fan has spoken about this. The medical team, I don't know what they're doing. I think it's got to the point now where our medical team say, "Can you touch your toes?" And they bend down and go, "Yeah." It's like, "You've passed your medical. You could sign for Spurs," because it keeps reoccurring. And like you said, the problem is these players keep coming back, and people will always use the Van der Ven and Romero Chelsea game. They may have been declared fit, but do you risk 2 players that have just come back from an injury that are so key to you at the same time? No, especially with Van der Ven knowing the hamstring issues. Or do you play one and keep one on the bench and then bring them on, or leave them out for a game and think long term rather than short term? I know Ange has been under a lot of pressure building up to that Chelsea game, and maybe he thought, right, I need to do this for whatever reason may be. But we talk about him saying he's hardly got any players to rotate with. Well, he does. Whether they're good enough is another talking point. But we have had players there to lighten the load on these players that play non-stop and keep them fit. But it just hasn't materialised.
Yeah, and that's been the reality. But look, for me, I'm willing. Look, there's plenty of things to criticise Ange for, and I'm not saying he's perfect, and I'm not saying there's you can't criticise him, and he's not worthy of valid criticism. I'm just, for me, the point where we are, the point of how we've been over the past 5 years, let's say. I'm willing to give him time to sort these problems out. I'm willing to give him time to figure it out, and I know Tottenham's fans' patience has run thin, and we have gone so many years out of trophy and all these different things, and to ask for more patience, for a lot of fans is asking for too much. And if for a lot of fans, if a manager's not working, then change it, and then they're not bothered with having stability, and they just want a manager who's going to get results right now. I'm just willing, for me, I think this club, the way we operate, we need stability. Otherwise, this is never going to work. I don't think we're a Madrid or a Chelsea where we can keep chopping and changing managers and expect to be where we need to be over a long stretch of time consistently. Yeah. I think we need stability, a manager at the helm who can, who's there for a long time, implementing something, building a team, letting them grow together with that manager. And I think that's, if we're not going to spend the money, that the top teams are doing, then that's the best way that we're going to catch up, is investing time in a project. And that's what we need to do. And look, I'm not saying you just invest the time in the project just for its own sake. If come the end of the season, we're bottom half, we went out all the cups easily and it ended up being a disaster, then fine, you go your separate ways. But while it's mid-season, while everything is still open, while we're still in all the cups, yes, the league is in a very bad situation. I think at this point this injury crisis has completely derailed our season, and I think even getting top 6 at this point is looking far beyond us. But if we can get a top half finish and we do something in the cups, then I'm willing to just assess that at the end of the season and see where we are. Maybe we go on a bit of a winning streak near the end when all our players are back and we see real potential going into next season. And maybe I still think we can be a good cup team the way we play. I think when all our players were there, we were battering teams at home and we were losing marginally away, and that really suits a two-legged cup team, in my opinion. So I'm just willing to give it the time. I'm willing to give him the time to sort it out. And also, I don't think changing a manager right now, mid-season, and either putting an interim or replacing the manager with this current injury crisis is going to change the short-term results. And for me, if we're not going to see an upswing in short-term results anyway, then you might as well give Ange that chance to turn the results around when the players get back, rather than a new manager. That's my opinion.
So I think if you look at Pochettino when we got to the Champions League final, that cup run papered over a lot of cracks, didn't it? There were cracks already coming, but because we were progressing and there was that possibility, obviously it got better.
We still finished top 4. We did still finish top 4.
But what I'm saying is that cup competition papered over a lot of the cracks, not winning away. I think as long as we're in the cup competitions, it will paper over the cracks. This is where we are at the moment. I think it's going to paper over the cracks of the league. And if we're in the cup competitions, he's completely, he is safe. But like you said, like we were saying beforehand, it looks like West Ham are about to sack their manager because results are simply unacceptable. And that's his first season. They spent a lot of money with him. We're going to have to see where this goes. I agree with you on the part that if we get rid of a manager right now, this is the part I will agree with, that any manager, like people talk about Iriola, or I don't think we get them out of their clubs mid-season. Maybe we can get them in the summer. I just don't think it's possible that these managers will be let go of, or the compensation fee required will be met to bring in these managers. The only managers that will be available are people that are still unemployed. And like you were saying earlier, if he does go, it looks like Potter may take West Ham, so that puts him out the bracket. And I don't see us getting a manager out of a club if we were to pull the trigger now or any time throughout the season So I just don't like it. I've got to the point now. It doesn't matter to me whether we hire him, fire him, sack him, keep him, extend his contract, because the next one that comes in, 18 months time, we'll be in exactly the same place.
Yeah, and I think the only way to break that 18-month cycle is to break it, not sack him, and give him that chance. And and that's what I think we should do. All right, next topic though. Talking about giving Ange what he needs and looking at other options, especially in the forward line. According to Fabrizio Romano, Tottenham have made contact with Paris Saint-Germain to understand the conditions of a deal for Kolo Muani from PSG. He also said that Tottenham are looking for a striker this window. Ryan Taylor of the Mirror says that Spurs. He says that Juventus are understood to be currently leading the race for Kolo Muani. He says, however, Spurs are also attentive to the Muani availability and will be interested in pursuing an initial loan, providing they can make the numbers work. He also said PSG are currently insisting on an obligation to buy clause being part of any loan deal for Muani. It is believed PSG are looking at least 50 million plus a potential loan fee in order to strike a deal, an agreement, though they're open to negotiations on that figure. Paul O'Keefe has chimed in as well, saying Tottenham are certainly trying to bring in Muani. If a deal can be done, they will do it. Now, Muani is someone who was very highly sought after a couple of years ago at Frankfurt. He was scoring loads and loads of goals and also getting a lot of assists when he was under Oli Glasner. And I think he was part of the team that won the Europa League when he was at Frankfurt. And that convinced PSG to part with about 70 million odd pounds for him during that summer. He also was part of the France squad that got to the World Cup final. He was obviously famously the player who missed that one-on-one chance right at the death against Emi Martinez before the penalty shootout. Hasn't worked out for him at PSG, I think it's fair to say. He's gone there, has struggled to get into the team, even with the likes of Mbappe and Messi leaving the football club. He still hasn't been able to nail down a real consistent starting spot. And when he has, his goal-scoring record hasn't been great. He's mostly played up front, but has also spent a bit of time on the right and left wing as well. But definitely has seen his best performances be as a central striker. This season, he has 3 goal contributions in 10 games played. Only started 2 games this season for PSG. Last season, 13 starts, 11 goal contributions, but he did take a part in 26 games. So again, you know, he's only played 36 games in 2 seasons for PSG overall, and only 15 starts in 2 seasons. But his last season at Frankfurt, it was 26 goal contributions in 32 games. So he really smashed it out when it came to goals and assists there. We need additions in the front line. He's 26 years of age, but he is in bad form. So what are your thoughts on the prospect of bringing Muani to Spurs?
So, I mean, first of all, I think understanding the conditions has to be a new buzzword phrase for buzzword bingo. That's got to be a new one. I've not heard that one. So that's where I'm having most of my fun this window, the buzzword bingo or buzz phrase. Muani isn't a player I know a load about, but I've been listening to people in chats and obviously social media. I've heard everything from, oh, he's incredible, he's like Henry, to he's like Timo Werner, the French Timo Werner. Pace, but out of form and can't score. Where I stand with this is I can't see him being a striker. But do we need support in the wings, and can he do a job there? Probably, maybe. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I'm fully behind this deal, because obviously we need to see if it's an obligation. If it's an obligation to buy, I don't think we go forward with it. If it's an option, maybe. An obligation, I don't think we do. But I think defence is the bigger issue, which we should be targeting right now. But I don't want to say yes, let's get him in. He's brilliant, because I don't know enough about him. I know you and Benham spoke about him regularly, and I have I remember him at Stuttgart, but I cannot remember or vouch for anything he's done at PSG. But based by those stats you've said, they're not exactly putting up trees, are they?
No, he hasn't done well. That's why he's available. He's not. He's only started 2 games this season. Luis Enrique hasn't fancied him. The reality is, from what I've seen, under Oli Glasner, you know, they play that, you know, back 5 system. They like to play on the counter attack. He basically played where Mateta plays this season. So they're very much he very much suited that system where whenever they counter-attacked, he got to attack the space. He got to get the ball at his feet and drive into space using his pace.
Yep.
Now, I don't think it's worked under Luis Enrique because he plays a heavily possession-based system. And I think he kind of struggles when the whole team's in front of him and he has to break teams down and things like that. He's a player who likes to play in transition. He likes to play in space. So from that point of view, I don't see the benefit, apart from obviously just increasing the numbers and options for us.
Yeah.
I don't see him being a great fit for us massively. However, if we see him as a player who can maybe has the certain characteristics who could play out wide, where I think our wingers tend to get a bit more space to play in, I think, in our system, then all of a sudden I think it could make a bit of sense. But he hasn't had his best performances in his career out wide. It's always been up front. That's where he's been at his best. So obviously, Richarlison, we've struggled with getting him as an option this season. So maybe we're thinking we don't even think about Richarlison anymore. Let's just get another striker who can compete with Dom.
Yep.
And let's just, if Richarlison's an option, then that's a bonus. But at the moment, he just doesn't seem to be one. So maybe that's what we're thinking. And maybe we're thinking we've seen something in him out wide that maybe other clubs haven't seen. So maybe that's something we're thinking. But on the face of it, it just doesn't seem the best fit. But he is someone who's could be a bit versatile, can play, definitely preferred in the 9, but can play across the front line. And has high potential. He's very fast, and obviously he's shown that in a top European league he can perform at a high level. So there's a lot going for this deal for us, and I wouldn't be unhappy about it. But I think it wouldn't be my first choice option, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when he does play wing, Simeon, is he more right or is he more left, or he's very, very versatile?
More on the right.
Okay, so saying that makes it a little bit more positive for me, because we certainly need help for Brennan Johnson. We can't keep putting Kulusevski out there. At least on the left, there are various options. Whether they're good enough is here nor there. And up for personal opinion, but on the right, it's literally Brennan Johnson, isn't it? Or we put Kulu out there, and you're moving Kulu out of his strongest position. So to add some depth to the right, that makes me a little bit more like, okay, if he's more right than left, I can understand it better, and I can see why, because Brennan certainly needs help. Certainly needs help, because apart from up in his biggest defender, apart from scoring goals, he's really not committing or pulling up trees, and he needs help. He needs some serious help, and we need to keep Kulu central. But there probably are better players out there, like you said, that we can get in, but we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? There's some big teams in there for competition with us, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And look, when a player like him becomes available, obviously piques the interest a lot of the bigger teams. So we'll see if who's really interested in him. Also, I kind of get the feeling like whoever gets mentioned in the media, we might not be interested for him, because Lange likes to work in the shadows and make surprises, like the next guy we're going to talk about, and that is Antonin Kinsky. According to Dan Kilpatrick, Tottenham are hopeful that that new signing Antonin Kinsky will receive a work permit on Tuesday, leaving him available to be in the squad for Wednesday's Carabao Cup semi-final against Liverpool. According to In Football, Kinsky's been talking to them. He said that Kinsky, on the possibility of making his debut versus Liverpool, he says, "I'll prepare to be ready, and if the coach decides to point to me, I'll be ready, and I feel great. I'm calm in my head." And The Athletic spoke to an anonymous Bundesliga scout. I don't know why he had to be anonymous, but apparently he's an anonymous Bundesliga scout. He can't put his name to this opinion, but he says that, he says he reminds me of Manuel Neuer. His style has some differences, but he seems bigger than he really is, and he has a presence and really gives off the sense of not being afraid. So that kind of plays into the fact that if he was to make his debut on Wednesday, maybe he's the kind of guy who wouldn't be kind of worried about that situation, phased by it. Exactly. He's going to be confident going into. But for you, Brian, considering Brandon Austin's performance against Newcastle on Saturday, Kinsky signing the next day, do you put him straight in? Do you see if he sink or swims, or does Austin get the nod for you on Wednesday?
You know, I can remember when I can remember a couple of Spurs goalkeepers when they made their debuts in big games. Eric Thorsvedt made his debut in a 2-1 defeat against Nottingham Forest. He made an absolute howler. Then you've got Hugo Lloris that was chucked in away at Arsenal in a North London derby where we lost 5-1 or 5-2, one of those results that we had there.
Adebayo got sent off.
Is chucking a goalkeeper in for your first game, such a big game, a good thing? I mean, I will say when we first signed him, I was like, what are we doing here? But as this story has developed and hearing things, maybe this guy could be a breath of fresh air, not putting all the eggs in the basket, but there's a lot of people speaking very, very highly about him in places that obviously have seen him and can see his potential. Do you chuck him in a big game here? I think if I had the choice, I might just go with Brandon. And the only reason I'd say with Brandon is he's got his debut out of the way, did very well. Didn't do him really impressed for that one game. Really, with his commanding of the box for set pieces and everything. He didn't put a foot wrong, really. Couldn't have done anything with the goals. And I think he's got the shirt. I think giving Kinsky more time and playing him against Tamworth, you go away, no pressure, or there's always pressure, but you know what I mean? It's a game where you can make your debut, see what he's about. So I personally would stick with Brandon. But if I can understand that Spurs are trying to rush this through, because they obviously see him where he said he's coming to give Vicario competition for the number one jersey, then you can see why Spurs might be trying to rush it in. But we'll have to wait and see. But if it was down to me, I think I'd go with Brandon. What about you?
I just feel like if you've brought him in early this window and you believe you've signed him because you've brought him in to play, let's be honest. You're not bring him in, rushing this deal in January because you don't fully believe that you need a new keeper. You know, you've seen Forster and Austin play, and I know Brandon only had one game, but I just think if he's the best option, if you really believe in this guy, then I think chuck him in. And if he's our best bet, then I think it's a big game on Wednesday, and I'll play him. And I know the only part of me that thinks maybe not is just because Brandon played so well. I kind of want to reward him for that performance by putting him in against Liverpool in a big cup semi-final. But what if he comes in and doesn't play well and he costs us a few goals because he's not good enough? I don't know. But look, he did very well. I don't want to take it away from Brandon. He was very good against Newcastle, and off the back of that, I wouldn't mind him playing against Liverpool because he deserves to. But if we've signed this keeper because we believe he's the real right fit for this system, and we really needed a keeper because Vicario's injured, and we clearly don't trust Forster. I know Brandon's come in and done well, but we really believe this guy is the perfect fit for the system, and we've rushed this deal in the early parts of January. Then just play him. If you believe he's the best fit and this is a big game, play him and then put Austin in against Tamworth.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the thing I will say about Kinsky, and all obviously you start looking at YouTube videos and check. One thing I'm very excited about him is distribution. Looks outstanding. Like a Jordan Pickford, like he is very, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is something we've been wanting for a very, very long time and needing for the style of football we've played under certain managers, and especially this one. We keep talking right now, like you're saying, with Kinsky or Brandon. Everyone can have this conversation, but what if Forster's fit? There's the third element. Does Forster go straight back in, or is he now? I
don't think we signed Kinsky if we trusted Forster. We clearly don't trust him, in my opinion.
See, that's the route you're going down. Like literally, it's like, well, maybe the way I looked at it is obviously Forster could go at the end of the season. We've got the goalkeeper sorted, but it could be. I heard you talking about this yesterday with Ben when you're doing the roundup of the Newcastle game. It could be that obviously we have signed him early and brought him in. You don't bring him in. I pretty much agree with what you're saying in the reasoning behind it, but I could also see it maybe being for the end of the season. But if Forster is fit, we'll clearly see. If there are three goalkeepers there that are ready, Forster is available, whether people think he or Kinsky.
I just think we would have waited till the summer if we didn't think we needed him right now. We must really believe we need him right now.
Yeah, listen, I can see that, and I can see the complete logic behind it. I think Wednesday will be telling, won't it? If Forster is fit, Kinsky's work permit is through and eligible, and Brandon Austin, then we see who starts that game, and then we'll see. Then we'll have a clear indicator.
Just a bit of breaking news as we were doing this video. According to Athletic, Kinsky has now been granted a work permit this afternoon, and he will train with Tottenham tomorrow, and so he is eligible to face Liverpool on Wednesday. So he will be available. There's now doesn't sound like there's any question mark about that now. So it's just whether Spurs choose to throw him in, or do they be patient with him. I know, knowing Ange, I know with Van de Ven, we signed him a few days before he made his debut, didn't we? He kind of chucked him in against Brentford. So I kind of feel like he's going to be brave and chuck him in, but he also could play Austin, who deserves to play, to be honest, who had a good game. So I can understand if he says, you know what, Austin deserves this chance, and I'm gonna give it to him after what was a solid display against Newcastle. So I can't understand both arguments, but I just get the feeling, you know, as I said before, we wouldn't have signed him if we didn't feel like we needed him right now, and I think we do.
I think it's a new revolutionary tactic by Ange Postecoglou. He's now going to play 3 goalkeepers, and 8 outfield. That's how we're going to keep the score.
Maybe we'll play Kinsky centre back. Yeah, maybe we'll play him centre back.
We'll play all 3 goals. You can't concede, and then we can just attack. No, I mean, it's good news to hear that his work permit's been rushed through and it's been got. That puts it now. You are talking. Is it Brandon? Oh, the 3 goalkeepers. We'll have to wait and see. But I think you're right, Simeon. If we see Kinsky start, then we know he's our number 1 until Vicario's back. And Forster will be no longer required as the number 1 until he's back. We'll have to see what happens. But look, he's either going to make his debut Wednesday or Saturday, isn't he?
Yeah,
no doubt. Either way, he's making his debut in the semi-final or in the 3rd round of the Cup. And we look forward to seeing what he can do.
All right. Brian, lovely to speak to you as always, mate. Appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us your time and giving us your thoughts. Go and check him out more on Tottenham on Tour as well. But brilliant, fantastic. Brian Daigle is here as always. But we'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.